There is a general view in Britain that racism is no longer a problem in football. Reports of racism, however, are on the rise, up 22% from previous years. And there are many recent examples, such as these Italian fans making monkey chants at 19-year-old Moise Kean, and even just the way the media writes stories about black footballers. It seems that racism is coming back and possibly never went away.
I've experienced racism both playing and watching. Sunday League, I've been called a black C. I've been, pretty much all the racial slurs you can think of. As a fan, it's a lot less, but I would definitely say that it's still there. I've witnessed it at Bramall Lane, unfortunately, because I'm a massive Sheffield United fan. So quite disappointing to see, but definitely more as a player. I think that it's changed quite recently because of all this Brexit vote and people getting a little bit fed up and seeing that the Brexit has happened. So I think that it's brought the worst out in some people, whereas it's not all people. A lot of people who voted Brexit are just normal people like me and you, who are not racist at all, but I think that some people have seen it as a little bit of a licence to now do and say whatever they want. So that's definitely, I think, had a shift in it.
We have seen a rise in reports of racism in the game, which is very depressing when we've been campaigning for 20 years. Why it is, probably a number of reasons. I think some of the things that are happening in wider society, in politics, particularly around Brexit, for example, are not helping. I think some of the comments made by certain top politicians and sections of the media are really unhelpful and are kind of leading people to think that they can say what they like, do what they like. I suppose the rise in social media means that I suppose people get to hear what other people are saying and thinking, whereas in the past maybe they were just as racist, but their comments just didn't get any further than their mates in the pub or whatever. But now these racist remarks can reach thousands and thousands of people. So there's quite a number of factors, I think, and they're not all specific to football at all. It's just that for some reason football seems to be an area where people feel they can get away with it more, I think.
Racism is 100% worse if you're a player. People go out and watch the football and they'll have a few drinks and they think it gives you license to just shout abuse at players. Some of it can get really nasty. As a fan, when you're going and watching with your friends, people are probably conscious of what you might think when you're around them. But yeah, it's definitely worse as a player, I think. It's hard to say if there's a rise of racism in football or not. I would say it's manifesting itself in different ways. So if you take the Daily Mail, for example, a lot of their articles are pretty there's a lot of racist undertones. So if, for example, you look at a young white footballer buys his mum a house, he's a good lad, he's looking after his family. If a black player does it, he's flash, like Raheem Sterling's been labelled in the past. So I don't know if there's a rise, I just think it's been done in different ways now, a little bit more sly.
We spoke to author and ex-Sheffield United football hooligan Steve Cowans about his experience of racism in football in the 80s and 90s. He said, back in the day it was much more prevalent. A lot of clubs like Leeds, Portsmouth and Chelsea had a big racist element within their fan base. With Sheffield United's firm, it was totally different, as we didn't really have that problem. We had lots of mixed race and black lads in our ranks, so we didn't have any problems. I suppose that fact helped us to have a better understanding and togetherness. I remember once, at Leeds in the mid-80s, around 2,000 Leeds lads were all siege-hailing towards our enclosure due to us having a few black lads. They also threw bananas across the corner of the pitch. We responded by putting the black lads on our shoulders and dancing while singing each black lad's name to the tune of Black Betty. When asked about if racism has been eradicated from football, Cowans told us, "I think it is almost non-existent nowadays. You never hear or see anything. The trouble is now that one idiot becomes national news on a weekend when 1.2 million people went to football without incident." Cowans also agreed that the forms of racism have changed since the 80s/90s. He said, "I witnessed and heard things in the 80s. It was down to people's sheer ignorance." When asked about if we will see a rise of racism in the game, Cowans stated, "I don't think we'll see a rise in racist incidents at all. Yes, there will still be isolated incidents as it is so difficult to totally eradicate racism, but we have to use perspective. If anything, there is now a lot better understanding and education."
There are some measures in place to deter fans from being racist. For example, clubs can issue banning orders, which many people would hopefully find a deterrent. They can also refer matters to the police. So, criminal convictions are possible as well. And for players can be banned, suspended. We've always said we need a mixture of sanctions and education. I think one of the problems we've had, along with a lot of other groups, is it's much harder to get funding these days. Like we used to have a full-time education worker, for example, who worked a lot in schools, youth clubs doing anti-racist work. So I think more of that kind of work is really important. I think some of the football's organising bodies need to step up as well, because even the National Kick It Out campaign, really, it's only a pressure group. It doesn't have any sort of legislative powers or anything. I have just heard that the Premier League are starting their own campaign. I think it's called No Room for Racism, but I think that's just for a week initially. So whether that'll have an impact, I don't know, but it's a start.
When you've been racially abused as a footballer, how does that make you feel, and what impact does it have on you?
It's disappointing to hear it, obviously, but in the moment when it happens, you just try and get on with your game. And just accept that you're going to come across some idiots in life. That's just how it is. But I think the general sense of disappointment, actually, that it's still happening in this day and age. But in that precise moment, you just got to get on with it. Just got to ignore it.